Chernobyl, otherwise known as the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. I chose this place because of the narrative I've always recalled. A nuclear power plant went off, blew up, and left an entire forest into a barren wasteland. And at the time, there were reports of mutants and animals with severe deformities within the area, along with the media that always interpreted, inspired, or had similarities to the tragedy. But that isn't the reality. Not entirely, because years on, there ended up being a lush, biodiverse space where even people ended up settling. But why? I mean, this place is one of, if not the most radioactive and the most heavily contained space on the planet. So why go there? Why decide to move there? Well, we'll be looking into that very shortly. But for now, we gotta go back to the beginning of it all. Our story begins in Ukraine, 1970. 120 kilometers north of the capital, Kiev, is the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. Chernobyl, at the bottom of the river, is 15 kilometers away from the city that houses the workers for the nuclear power plant. The city, known as Pripyat, was a very vibrant and fairly young community. Their relationship with the environment was defined by two things and two things only: utility and extraction. They would use the land to make timber and to establish agricultural lands and farming. They would then use the Pripyat River for the cooling of the power plant as well as for the water source. These were state-controlled common pool resources because a good share of the resources were given to the Soviet government. The rules governing appropriation prioritize human output and industrial progress, a management style William Conrad might recognize in narratives of market-driven resource exploitation. The main actors were the residents of Pripyat, agricultural workers, and plant engineers. Their relationship with the place was embedded in a functional industrial ecosystem. There was little perceived conflict in values. The promise of abundant, powerful energy and a growing populace eclipsed any intrinsic in nature or relational with nature values that might have existed. This phase established a baseline condition, a thriving human settlement built upon a functional, utilized landscape, one that would soon be violently interrupted, highlighting how a system optimized for one value, energy extraction, could completely collapse due to flaws in safety culture and design. In this society, we'll see very, very soon how that turns out. It is April 26, 1986. In the middle of the night, due to a failed checkup on the safety, the fourth reactor has exploded and is now spreading dangerous radionuclides such as cesium-137 and strontium-90, resulting in a 400-hectare area of the forest becoming red due to full absorption of the radiation. The resource dynamics shifted dramatically. The natural resources of the area were instantly converted from a common good to a common bad. Using Ostrom's terminology, the primary concern was no longer preventing overappropriation, but preventing overcontamination from spreading further into the atmosphere, water table, and surrounding areas. The key actors during this phase were the immediate victims, residents of Pripyat, and the thousands of liquidators, which were cleanup crews. Their activities represented intense acts of prevention and mitigation. Data from historical accounts and documentation of the cleanup efforts detail how the liquidators bulldozed in the irradiated trees, burying them in lead-lined trenches covered with topsoil. The Ukrainian government, acting as the centralized rule enforcer, established a rigid top-down exclusion zone with clear albeit invisible boundaries to ensure containment. As radiation levels dropped, tourism began to flood the streets and the walkways of the once abandoned city. Now, due to the ever-increasing population of tourists, there are people such as stalkers who try to sell scraps and irradiated materials from the land. Other influencers or actors of this environment include radioecologists who interact with the environment, along with the Samasali, elderly self-settlers who came back to their land. Along with that, there's also the wildlife, which have grown in abundance and have even mutated to better adapt to the land. It appears that the absence of human activity, such as hunting, logging, farming, and urban development, nature has made a remarkable resurgence. Data from camera trap studies and radioecology research papers document thriving populations of non-human actors, which showcase an emergence of a powerful in-nature value. The ecosystem is demonstrating a resilience and abundance that, in some metrics, surpasses its pre-1986 condition. The formal rules of total exclusion, while intended for human safety, paradoxically created the perfect conditions for a thriving wildlife sanctuary. The management of the commons remains complex. The government still enforces exclusion, focusing provision activities on monitoring and ongoing containment efforts like the new safe containment structure. However, that shadow economy of illicit poaching and scrap metal trading operates outside of these formal controls, highlighting how sanctions are not fully deterring illicit appropriation. The invisible spread of radiation complicates the physical boundaries, demonstrating that the rules fail to achieve sustainability in traditional sense, as resource use remains inherently dangerous.